We're back with Talking Law TV's first segment with attorney Gene Brooks talking about defective hip implants.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, Gene. How are you doing?
Good.
I'm excited about this episode because you always know so much about medical stuff.
Well,
I know we have two we're going to talk about specifically, the DePuy ASR and a Zimmer Durham.
right. Those are the two hip implants that are sort of at the top of the news right now that are very well accepted as being defective, and they've both been recalled from the market.
Okay, our first one, let's talk about the DePuy ASR, and we have a picture of one here, and it's...
The DePuy is the most recent recall, and actually, I guess there's some questions whether it was actual recall, but they're not being manufactured anymore, and the company says they're just, they have other reasons for not selling any more of them, but I think about over 2,000 of these were implanted, and they first sent out notice in July of this year, in July 2010, that there was a problem, and their fix at that time was sort of blaming it on the doctors, saying that the doctors weren't implanting them properly. Yeah, and this is how they work, and they, as you can see, one end, and that is the cup on the far end closest to you. That is the cup that goes into the socket, hip socket. And the idea is that the bone will grow into the metal.
Okay. And our second one here, you sort of see how it goes into the, I guess is that the femur and your hip bone?
Yeah, you can see the long end. We'll call that the shaft. They actually sort of drill out your femur and stick it down in there like you're drilling out a post and putting a light or something in it, you know, just stuff it down in there. And then the cup, it goes into the socket, and then it's supposed to work as a ball and socket joint.
How does someone know if they have a bad hip implant?
Well, the first sign is you'll start having a lot of pain. And you're going to have some pain with these implants anyway. I mean, it's a painful procedure. It's painful recovering. So there's going to be some pain that's just because that's what happens when you have a hip implant. Hopefully you're having less pain than before. But over time it will become more painful, and it will start squeaking. It may even come out of joint. And so if you have these problems, yeah, this is a good x-ray of one. This just shows how it's supposed to be fitting in. But also this, if they don't adhere properly, if you don't have good bone growth, and some of these, and that's the problem with the DePuy, is you're not getting some good bone growth in there. Because the cup is actually too shallow, it will become loose, and they can detect that on x-ray. And as it becomes loose, it will start to slide, and they call it a vertical movement, so it slides downwards, and then it's not attached anymore. And this is one that's out of place, obviously, and that you can see that's going to be painful. You're going to know that.
That looks like it hurts a lot.
Now, another thing you're going to have before this happens is that you'll have a lot of squeaking, because you have these metal-on-metal joints, and the metal-on-metal is sort of a new type of design they've come up with. It used to be some more of a ceramic and metal.
Okay.
The Zimmer Durham
is the next one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you can see that this is a metal-on-metal too, and the problem with these metal-on-metal is that you got a chromium and cobalt metals that are in these two connections. And this metal-on-metal can wear, and you begin to develop metal pieces in your hip joints. And your immune system starts to react to these metal pieces of cobalt and chromium, and they can't dissolve it. And so you can get an autoimmune type reaction that sets, and that's called a metallosis when all this is going on. And you can actually get blood tests for it.
Now, instead of having metal on metal, have they done like plastic or polyurethane or something in between to keep that from happening?
Well, I think the ceramic ones were probably the better ones. They're the older ones. And you got a polyethylene piece here. Now, in some of them, you can have the polyethylene can start breaking down. And that used to be a problem with some of the older ones. And the reason that was a problem is because before they were putting these implanting the implants, they would radiate the material to sterilize it. And after 3 or 4 years, it would start breaking down that polyethylene, and it would start breaking down the bottom, and you would get a reaction from that as well.
So you say you hear a squeaking noise?
Yeah, a squeaking, and then the louder the squeak means you're getting a lot of metal on metal rubbing there, and maybe the hip cup has moved out of place. So that's a big sign of a problem. That and the pain together, we should probably take you back to your orthopedic surgeon and have him send you through MRIs or X-rays to see if the device is starting to slip.
And then if they have to redo it, I mean, it's the whole process all over again.
Yeah, and you know, these implants should last, I don't know, at least 10 years, more likely 15 to 20 years when you go through this process. But these ones that are failing early are lasting 3, 4, 5 years.
Now, what's the statute for filing a damage claim?
Well, again, it's 2 years from the date that you knew or should have known of the problem. So if you go to your doctor and he says it's okay, you don't have a problem, then your statute of limitations has not begun. But if you're starting to have the squeaking and the pain, and you go to a doctor and say, ouch, this really hurts, and he looks at it and says, yeah, you need a revision, then your statute would start running at that time. And if you have a revision, you need to be sure that everything is sort of saved. I mean, you can save the device itself or the implant itself, but you really need to save all the tissue and everything else that is with it, so you can prove that you've developed metallosis or osteolysis, which means there's a breakdown of the bone caused by the autoimmune problems caused by the metallosis. And all that together is really necessary to prove the case. For instance, the implant would be blackened by the reactions in your body, and that typically would not have that color in it. So if the hospital takes it out and you say, I want to save it, they say, okay, they might send it in to be sterilized, and so when you get it back, a lot of that tissue and the color will be gone. So you want to save it and have it frozen so it can be used as evidence.
So it's not like, I mean, I could imagine it's going to come out as hazardous waste.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what we can do is you'll have somebody there. There are contractors that can be retained to go in. Sometimes they can even videotape the surgery, if the surgeon and the hospital will allow it, to show what's going on, and then they can take the device and encapsulate it, and then take it directly and have it frozen. So
does the doctor have any culpability in this?
Not typically. If the implant is defective, typically the doctor would end up being a witness and saying, yeah, the company told me this, and they told me what a great product it was, and they told me this wouldn't happen, and so that's why I used it. If I had known that this product would do these things, I wouldn't have used it. And so he's basically a witness in the case as to how the product came to be in this particular person. But it's typically are product liability cases.
So when you take one out, you're going to immediately put the other one back, a new one back in.
Yeah, you'd have to have another one. And the problem is, if you have to go through multiple surgeries, that you have less and less bone to work with, and particularly if the bone has developed this osteolysis, so that it started to decay some. So you want to make sure, I hope you got enough bone to work with. You don't want to have to go through too many of these. That's why doctors like to delay your implants until later in life.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Gene. You'll be back later to answer viewer mail questions. We'll be back with Doug Andrews and Richard Sanders talking about what to do if you think your doctor did screw up. We'll be right back after this.